All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Saira Mujtaba and with me is Anuja Kumar. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks with US President Joe Biden, discusses evolving COVID-19 situation in both countries in detail. President Joe Biden pledges America's full support to provide emergency assistance and resources in fight against COVID-19. Says, as India was there for America, America will be there for India. Medical supplies from United Kingdom arrives in the country this morning. Government appreciates move, says international cooperation at work. China retracts announcement to suspend cargo flights to India after it created controversy, says it is working out new plan to resume services. The total vaccination across the country crosses 14.5 crore mark. Maharashtra sees sharp drop in daily COVID-19 cases. Karnataka lockdown comes into force from today for 14 days. Kerala imposes more stringent restrictions following spike in COVID situation. Centre decides to give Hajj houses in different parts of the country to utilize as temporary COVID care centres. Reserve Bank of India warns resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic could bring back inflationary pressures in the country. Seventh phase of West Bengal Assembly elections sees over 76% voter turnout. And in IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore at 7:30 p.m. in Ahmedabad. As the number of COVID cases is on the rise again, we appeal to our listeners not to lower their guard, take all precautions, and all those above 45 years of age to get vaccinated without any hesitation. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with US President Joe Biden yesterday. The leaders discussed the evolving COVID-19 situation in both the countries in detail. The discussion covered India's ongoing efforts to contain the second wave of the pandemic through expedited vaccination efforts and ensuring supply of critical medicines, therapeutics and healthcare equipment. President Biden conveyed solidarity with India and affirmed that the United States is determined to support India's efforts by quickly deploying resources such as therapeutics, ventilators, and identifying sources of raw materials to be made available for the manufacture of Covishield vaccines. Prime Minister Modi conveyed his heartfelt appreciation for the offer of assistance and support from the US government. He mentioned about India's commitment to contain the COVID-19 pandemic globally through Vaccine Maitri and its participation in COVAX and the Quad vaccine initiatives. The Prime Minister underscored the need to ensure smooth and open supply chains of raw materials and inputs required for manufacture of vaccines, medicines and therapeutics related to COVID-19. Both the leaders underlined the potential of the India-US partnership in vaccine development and supply to address the COVID-19 pandemic and directed their officials to maintain close coordination and cooperation in their efforts in this domain. Mr. Modi also informed Mr. Biden about India's initiative at the World Trade Organization for a relaxation in the norms of the Agreement on Trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights, TRIPS, to ensure quick and affordable access to vaccines and medicines for developing countries. US President Joe Biden is sure to provide assistance to India to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. In a tweet yesterday, Mr. Biden said he spoke with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and pledged America's full support to provide emergency assistance and resources in the fight against COVID-19. He said India was there for America and America will be there for India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has interacted with Prime Minister of Japan Yoshihide Suga over phone. During the interaction, both the leaders discussed the progress in various ongoing bilateral initiatives. The 2 leaders discussed the COVID-19 situation and exchanged views on various regional and global challenges posed by the pandemic. They appreciated the support and facilitation provided to resident citizens in each other's country during the pandemic and agreed to continue such coordination. Prime Minister Modi thanked Prime Minister Suga for providing assistance to India for combating the pandemic. Amid the growing demands of medical supplies in the country, United Kingdom has provided critical medical supplies to India to deal with coronavirus cases. External Affairs Ministry today informed that a shipment of vital medical supplies from the United Kingdom, including 100 ventilators and 95 oxygen concentrators, arrived early this morning. Ministry has appreciated this move, saying that international cooperation is at work.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reviewed the work being done by the armed forces in combating COVID-19, including the efforts to enhance medical capacities and utilizing human resources. The Chief of Defence Staff, CDS General Bipin Rawat, called on Mr. Modi and they reviewed the preparations and operations being undertaken by the armed forces to deal with the pandemic. The Chief of Defence Staff briefed the Prime Minister that all medical personnel from armed forces who have retired or taken premature retirement in the last 2 years are being recalled to work in COVID facilities within proximity of their present place of residence. Other medical officers who retired earlier have also been requested to make their services available for consultation through medical emergency helplines. The Prime Minister was also informed that all medical officers on staff appointments at Command Headquarters, Corps Headquarters, Division Headquarters and similar headquarters of Navy and Air Force will be employed at the hospitals. Over 76.17% voter turnout has been recorded in the 7th phase of West Bengal Assembly elections. Polling remained peaceful in all 34 Assembly constituencies. Initially, 36 constituencies were to go to polls, but the voting in 2 constituencies was rescheduled due to the passing away of 2 candidates from the respective constituencies. Long queues were seen in 12,068 polling booths across all the 34 constituencies with adherence to strict COVID-19 protocols. Trinamool Congress TMC Supremo and Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also voted in this phase. Security was tightened due to incidents of violence reported in previous phases of the Assembly elections. At least 796 companies of Central Forces were deployed in the state during the 7th phase. Live monitoring and webcasting of more than 50% of polling stations, including critical and vulnerable polling booths, were done to ensure a safe and secure atmosphere in the polling areas. The Election Commission says voters set an example of COVID-appropriate behavior in polling areas by following due protocols of sanitization and social distancing in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. The first round of voting was held on 27th of March, while the subsequent rounds took place on 1st, 6th, 10th, 17th and 22nd of April. The final phase, meanwhile, will take place on 29th of April. Counting of votes and declaration of results in all 294 Assembly constituencies are scheduled for 2nd May.
The Centre has directed states and union territories to ensure that liquid oxygen is exclusively used for medical purposes only. The exception to 9 industries given earlier has also been curtailed to only 3 industrial sectors, including manufacturers of ampoules and vials, the pharma industry and defence forces. The decision has been taken to enhance availability of medical oxygen in the country. Union Home Secretary and Chairman National Executive Committee Ajay Bhalla has written to the Chief Secretaries of States and Administrators of Union Territories in this regard. Mr. Bhalla has asked all manufacturing units to maximize their production of liquid oxygen and make it available to the government for use of medical purposes only with immediate effect until further orders. All stocks of liquid oxygen should also be made available to the government for use for medical purposes. The Ministry of Steel has said that over 3,130 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen were supplied by steel plants to various states. It said that steel plants have been able to enhance the supply of liquid medical oxygen by taking various initiatives. This includes reduction in the production of nitrogen and argon and production of only liquid medical oxygen in most plants. The ministry said that through continuous engagement with steel producers, the safety stock of liquid medical oxygen of steel plants has been reduced to 0.5 days instead of the earlier 3.5 days.
The Centre has urged all states and union territories to direct authorities regarding implementation of containment framework as advised by the Health Ministry to flatten the curve. In his letter to Chief Secretaries, Union Home Secretary Ajay Bhalla said, in the recent past, a sharp increase in COVID-19 cases has been observed along with high positivity rate. He said considering this unprecedented surge, there is an urgent need for states and UTs to consider strict COVID management and control measures in the surge areas to bring the situation under control. Mr. Bhalla also advised that orders issued by the state governments, UT administrations and district authorities for imposing restrictions should be widely disseminated to the public and to the field functionaries for their effective implementation. The government has said more than 14 crore 19 lakh vaccine doses have been administered in the country till now. Nearly 93 lakh healthcare workers have been administered the first dose of vaccine and over 60 lakh have received the second dose. Briefing the media in New Delhi, Joint Secretary in Health Ministry Love Agarwal said over 1 crore 19 lakh frontline workers have received the first dose and over 63 lakh have received the second dose. He informed that over 9 crore 79 lakh people aged 45 years and above have received the first dose and over 1 crore people have got the second dose. Mr. Agarwal said the management of COVID-19 across states and districts is to follow three main principles: containment, clinical management and community engagement. He said research has shown if no physical distancing measures are followed, one person can infect 406 people in 30 days. Additional Secretary in the Home Ministry Piyush Goyal said India has enough medical oxygen available. He said the transportation of oxygen tankers is a major challenge. Mr. Goyal said India is ordering oxygen tankers from abroad on a purchase or hiring basis.
Oxygen Express train carrying 4 tankers has reached Delhi from Raigad early this morning. This will help in easing the supply of oxygen in Delhi amid the shortage of oxygen supply in the city's hospitals. In a tweet today, Railways Minister Piyush Goyal said that Oxygen Express has reached Delhi from Raigad, Chhattisgarh, with oxygen for patients in the capital. He said Railways is leaving no stone unturned in the collective fight against COVID-19 and ensuring sufficient availability of life-saving resources across the country. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has instructed officials to ensure proper availability of oxygen along with medicines so that COVID-19 patients do not face any problems. Holding a high-level meeting with officials, Mr. Kumar instructed them to take all necessary steps to meet the requirement of medical oxygen at all COVID-designated government and private hospitals. He ordered to take necessary steps to purchase additional medical oxygen from the state government funds. Chief Minister Mr. Kumar said 14,000 vials of remdesivir injection reached Patna late night by chartered plane from Ahmedabad. It will be distributed among hospitals as per their requirement.
Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani has encouraged the State Health and Ayush Department for maximum use of Ayurvedic and homeopathic medicines to win the war against COVID-19. He said that these will also help in increasing immunity of the people against the coronavirus pandemic in the state. Presiding over the state-level core committee meeting at Gandhinagar last evening, Mr. Rupani has directed the administration to order and distribute about 60,000 kgs of Amrit Piya Okala and Sanshaman Vati and 10 lakh doses of homeopathic arsenicum albumin 30 medicines. Meanwhile, Gujarat has recorded 14,340 new cases yesterday. According to the State Health Department, 7,727 patients recovered in the last 24 hours. More details from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
Maximum 5,619 new cases of COVID-19 reported from Ahmedabad, while Surat recorded 1,472 new cases. 158 patients lost their lives yesterday. With this, the death toll due to COVID-19 in the state has reached up to 6,486. Gujarat has now 1,21,461 active cases at present, out of which 412 patients are on ventilator. Meanwhile, 1,59,093 persons were vaccinated in the state yesterday. Now Gujarat has vaccinated 1,14,54,629 persons till now. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
National Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board of Department of Science and Technology had introduced Center for Augmenting War with COVID-19 Health Crisis, Kavach initiative. Through this initiative, various innovations helping for control of COVID-19 are being funded. One such startup in Maharashtra has developed indigenous ventilators and oxygen concentrators. While promoting Atmanirbhar Bharat, it has come to the rescue of serious COVID patients as well. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
Due to rising COVID situation in the country, some patients are facing the need of oxygen concentrators and ventilators. Pune-based Nukak Robotics, a startup by IIT Kanpur graduates, has developed these devices indigenously and provides helping hand to COVID patients. It has developed advanced ICU ventilator and high-flow oxygen therapy device. In an exclusive interview to All India Radio, its CEO Nikhil Kurele says these are easy-to-use devices having easy interface. Its price is much lower than its counterparts available in the market. We have received grant from Kavach program by Department of Science and Technology for research and development of these products. Till date, company has supplied more than 1,000 units of ventilator to government and private hospitals across the nation. Mr. Kurele says company has production capacity of 50 units of ventilator per day. If demand rises, it can double the production capacity. Jeevan Bhavsar, AIR News, Mumbai.
Kerala has imposed more stringent restrictions following the COVID situation, continuing to worsen as the state recorded 21,890 new cases in past 24 hours. Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan has expressed deep concern over the COVID scenario. Talking to the media, Mr. Vijayan said it is agreed in the all-party meeting held yesterday not to have a complete lockdown in the state. Instead, stricter restrictions will be imposed. Theatres, malls, gymnasiums, swimming pools, amusement parks, bars and foreign liquor shops will be closed temporarily. Strict control will be imposed on all places of worship. Shops and other establishments will be functional only till 7:30 p.m. On May 2nd, the counting day of assembly polls, public demonstrations and mass gatherings will be completely avoided and public will not be allowed to enter the counting centres. Meanwhile, the State Health Department decided to allow discharge of mild and moderate category of COVID patients without negative rapid antigen test to avoid pressure on hospitals and to leave the bed care facility for critical patients. Those with mild symptoms should continue in home quarantine for 17 days. The state has over 232,000 active COVID cases presently and the test positivity rate is 22.71%. Reserve Bank of India yesterday warned that the resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic could bring back inflationary pressures in the country. In its economy report, the RBI said the resurgence in COVID-19, if not contained in time, risks protracted restrictions and disruptions in supply chains with consequent inflationary pressures. It also said the pandemic protocols, speedier vaccination, ramping up hospital and ancillary capacity, and remaining resolutely focused on the post-pandemic future of strong and sustainable growth with macroeconomic and financial stability is the way forward. You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks with US President Joe Biden. Discusses evolving COVID-19 situation in both countries in detail. President Joe Biden pledges America's full support to provide emergency assistance and resources in fight against COVID-19. Says, as India was there for America, America will be there for India. Medical supplies from United Kingdom arrives in the country this morning. Government appreciates the move, says international cooperation at work. China retracts announcement to suspend cargo flights to India after it created controversy, says it is working out a new plan to resume services. The total vaccination across the country crosses 14.5 crore mark. Maharashtra sees sharp drop in daily COVID-19 cases. Karnataka lockdown comes into force from today for 14 days. Kerala imposes more stringent restrictions following spike in COVID situation. Centre decides to give Hajj houses in different parts of the country to utilize as temporary COVID care centres. Reserve Bank of India warns resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic could bring back inflationary pressures in the country. Seventh phase of West Bengal Assembly elections sees over 76% voter turnout. And in IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore at 7:30 p.m. in Ahmedabad. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
The centre has decided to give Hajj houses in different parts of the country to the state governments to utilize them as temporary COVID care centres. Minority Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi has reviewed the status of use of Hajj houses in this regard. He has directed all the state Hajj committees to assist the state governments to utilize the Hajj houses as COVID care centres. In Assam, all educational institutes will remain closed from today in Kamrup Metro District till 11th of next month. Hostels and coaching institutes will also remain closed. However, online classes will continue to be held. Assam has reported 3,137 cases yesterday with 15 casualties.
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, police in North Kashmir's Baramulla district have arrested 2 terrorist associates of terror outfit Hizbul Mujahideen. Police said that acting on a specific input, Baramulla police have arrested 2 terrorist associates, Liaquat Ahmad Kakru and Akhtar Ahmad Mir. Accordingly, a case under relevant sections of law has been registered in police station Boniar and further investigation is in progress. In Karnataka, 29,744 new COVID-19 cases were reported during the last 24 hours. During the same period, 10,663 COVID patients recovered and 201 COVID patients lost their lives. Among the new cases, Bengaluru city reported 16,545 new COVID cases, taking the tally to 6,70,201 in the city. A total of 2,81,042 active COVID patients are taking treatment in various hospitals in the state. Among them, 1,815 are in the ICU. A total of 88,27,370 healthcare workers, frontline workers and public were administered vaccination in the state till now. Meanwhile, the Karnataka government has announced a 14-day statewide lockdown to break the chain of COVID-19 transmission in the state. The lockdown will begin today at 9 p.m. and will be enforced till 6 a.m. on 12th May. Only essential shops would be open from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the next 2 weeks. Announcing this yesterday in Bengaluru, after the cabinet meeting, Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa said that public road transport in the state and metro train in Bengaluru would not operate for the next 14 days. The Chief Minister further said that except manufacturing sectors, all other sectors including garment industry would remain closed. The Chief Minister said that all agriculture-related activities will be allowed in rural areas.
Amidst rapid surge in cases of corona infection in Chhattisgarh, the lockdown period has been extended in all 28 districts of the state. 13 districts will be under lockdown till 5th of May, while in 15 other districts, lockdown will be till 6th of May. Our Raipur correspondent reports that efforts are being made by the Chhattisgarh government to increase the number of beds in hospitals and to ensure continuous supply of medical oxygen.
In Chhattisgarh, along with increasing the number of beds for the treatment of corona-infected patients, efforts are also being made to maintain a smooth supply of medical oxygen. Currently, 37 dedicated government COVID hospitals and 154 COVID care centers are operational in the state. More than 28,000 beds are available in government and private hospitals. Out of these, about 11,500 are oxygenated beds. Apart from this, at present, more than 1,000 ventilators are also available. To increase the supply of medical oxygen, 15 new oxygen generation plants have been set up in the state. Besides, 9 additional plants will start from next week. To ensure continuous supply of medical oxygen in hospitals, 8,000 industrial cylinders have been converted into medical oxygen cylinders. Vikalp Shukla, AIR News, Raipur.
Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has said that Air India has brought 318 oxygen concentrators to India on its New York-Delhi flight. He said all efforts to strengthen India's fight against the pandemic are on. He said, let there be no doubt we will turn the tide.
China's state-run Sichuan Airlines has suspended all its cargo flights to India for 15 days, causing major disruption to private traders' efforts to procure the much-needed oxygen concentrators and other medical supplies from China. This happened despite Beijing saying that India and China are in communication for COVID-19 assistance to India. In IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders defeated Punjab Super Kings by 5 wickets at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad last night. More from our correspondent.
In IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders defeated Punjab Kings by 5 wickets at Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad last night. Put into bat first, Punjab posted 123 runs for 9 wickets in the stipulated 20 overs. In reply, KKR easily chased down the target for the loss of 5 wickets in 16.4 overs with the help of Eoin Morgan's unbeaten 47 of 40 balls and Rahul Tripathi's 41 of 32. Today, Delhi Capitals will take on Royal Challengers Bangalore at 7:30 p.m. in Ahmedabad. In a sporting gesture, Kolkata Knight Riders Australian pacer Chaser Pat Cummins has contributed $50,000 to the PM CARES Fund specifically to purchase oxygen supplies for India's hospitals. In other sports news, 7 members of the Indian women's hockey team, including Captain Rani Rampal and 2 support staff members, have been tested positive for COVID-19 ahead of a training camp at the Sports Authority of India's SAI Centre in Bengaluru. All the players and support staff are asymptomatic and have been placed under observation at the SAI Centre. The 7 players who have tested positive are Rani Rampal, Savita Punia, Sharmila Devi, Rajni, Navjot Kaur, Navneet Kaur and Sushila, whereas video analyst Amrita Prakash and scientific advisor Wayne Lombard have also been tested positive. The extension of lockdown in Delhi till May 3 and a surge in COVID-19 cases have put next month's Asian Boxing Championships to be held at capital's Indira Gandhi Indoor Sports Complex from May 21 in doubt. The continental competition was earlier postponed in 2020 due to the pandemic. The 15-member Indian shooting contingent for the Tokyo Olympics, already reeling after the national camp was postponed recently, suffered another blow to Tokyo preparations when the ISSF World Cup in Baku, to be held from June 21 to July 2, was cancelled yesterday due to rise in COVID cases. In fact, Baku World Cup was supposed to be the last event before the Olympics and would have given Indian shooters an opportunity to assess themselves before the Games. Sports Desk, AIR News, Delhi.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast for the day. National capital Delhi is likely to have a mainly clear sky. The temperature will hover between 21 and 41 degrees Celsius. Srinagar will have a mainly clear sky. Temperature will hover between 8 and 26 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have a mainly clear sky. The temperature will hover between 17 and 34 degrees Celsius. Leh is expected to have a mainly clear sky. Temperature will hover between -1 and 13 degrees Celsius, while Gilgit will have a mainly clear sky. Temperature will move from a minimum of 7 to a maximum of 27 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad is also likely to have a mainly clear sky. Maximum temperature will be around 34, while minimum would be 14 degrees Celsius. Dehradun will have a partly cloudy sky with possibility of rain or thunderstorm or dust storm.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. The papers have widely covered the latest regarding ways to tackle the second surge in COVID cases. On vaccine prices, the Asian Age writes, Centre asks Bharat Biotech Serum India to lower prices. Hindustan Times says, free vaccines in Delhi for all adults, says government. Papers have also noticed Madras High Court's observation widely. The Tribune in its headline quotes the High Court, EC singularly to blame for second COVID surge, while the Asian Age writes, EC should be charged with murder for allowing poll rallies, says Madras High Court. Other countries coming forward to help India is also widely noticed by the press. The Pioneer writes, India's SOS gets global response, while Hindustan Times reports, in call, Modi and Biden discuss COVID supplies. And finally, on the Academy Awards, China-born Zhao's Nomadland makes Oscar history, adding Irfan Khan, costume designer Bhanu Athaiya, honoured by Academy.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks with US President Joe Biden, discusses evolving COVID-19 situation in both countries in detail. President Joe Biden pledges America's full support to provide emergency assistance and resources in fight against COVID-19. Says, as India was there for America, America will be there for India. Medical supplies from United Kingdom arrive in the country this morning. Government appreciates move, says international cooperation at work. China retracts announcement to suspend cargo flights to India after it created controversy. Says it is working out new plan to resume services. Total vaccination across the country crosses the 14.5 crore mark. Maharashtra sees sharp drop in daily COVID-19 cases. Karnataka lockdown comes into force from today for 14 days. Kerala imposes more stringent restrictions following spike in COVID situation. Centre decides to give Hajj houses in different parts of the country to utilize as temporary COVID care centres. Reserve Bank of India warns resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic could bring back inflationary pressures in the country. 7th phase of West Bengal Assembly election sees over 76% voter turnout. And in IPL cricket, Delhi Capitals to take on Royal Challengers Bangalore at 7:30 p.m. in Ahmedabad. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a great day.